So guys, what we have seen so far is DOM selection. Okay. Now what we are going to talk about is manipulating the DOM, which means you are modifying the DOM. All right. And there are a lot of methods and properties that are associated with modifying the DOM objects. So one is like a inner text. We can modify the inner text of your tag, div tag, paragraph tag, or whatever the element that you have selected. Inner content, inner HTML. Okay, all that can be done. Inner HTML will contain, if there is a nesting of tags one within another, it will select all, but text will only select the text part of it. Okay. And value is again, when you have an input field and all that, you're going to talk about the value that it contains: parent element, child element, siblings. Yeah, even you can make the styling as well, and get the attributes. You can set the attributes. Append is like you are adding or additionally appending that child. You can append the parent, and you can remove the child, remove a parent, and at the same time you can create an element out of nowhere. Okay, all that can be done using uh, what we call it as DOM manipulation. So with that being said, let's consider some of them. Okay, now that you have already known it. Okay, let me open this output. Oh, this has already been there. All right, so this is the currently there is a H1 tag and two paragraph tags are already present, and they have been given a class and an ID, and we'll see how we can modify this. All right. One of the things that you saw is how to uh, modify inner HTML, right? That is what we saw. Document dot, if you say query selector, query selector. Inside that, what I'm going to select, I will select by an ID called para1, and that is going to return me a paragraph, which is para element with an identifier called para1. And this I'm going to assign it to a variable. Okay, const select para1 is equal to, so this I have selected a para. And now this para1, what it contains, this contains the same HTML element, which is a paragraph with an identifier. Now understand how I'm going to use certain manipulation. What you just did is what is known as DOM selection. And what I'm going to do now is a DOM manipulation. So now this particular element is a P1 tag, P tag. So P tag itself, if I put dot in front of it, which means the P tag, and if I go ahead and see, what does it return, guys? It return what is known as object. Okay, the type of this is an object. Hence, this type has got paragraphs. This type has got properties, and there are a lot of properties. Now, one of them we saw is inner HTML. Now, what I can do is I can even style that. Like, for example, there is an element called style, and style, this particular property has got a lot of values. Like, for example, if I want to change a background color, okay, background color, this is the background color, and I can set the background color value. Let's say I want to set that to coral. All right, and now if I hit enter, if you go ahead and see the DOM, the background color of this paragraph that is selected is changed to coral. And I can go ahead and change, again, a lot of stylings I can do. Style dot, if you have seen here, a lot of things are there. Let's say I want to add border, or for that matter, I want to add a color. Okay, so this is again a property that can be changed. I want to change it to blue. All right, that can also be done, and that you can see it has changed the text color to blue. So what we are trying to see here is you are manipulating or changing the HTML output itself by manipulating or changing the entire content. Now let's understand with a certain example right here. All right. So let me do a certain live example with you. Let's say I want to add a boilerplate. All right. Inside the boilerplate, what I'm going to do is, let's say I'll add couple of button, and this I'll make it as an identifier called BTN1. Okay, button one, and this maybe I'll say button name. Okay, BTN name I'll say, because this is what I'm going to write it here. It's a name button. And then I'm going to add another button which is going to say city. Okay, city, and that you will say city. All right, there are two buttons, and this is what the output is going to look like. Okay, two buttons, one says name, another says city. So if I click the name, I want to show a text below it saying the name, and if I click on city, it should show me what is known as the city name. All right, so this is what I want to achieve using the DOM selection and manipulation. Now let's say this is what it is there now currently. And for that, if you, I want to add internal JavaScript code, let me add a script tag, sorry, script script tag. And this script tag, let's say first is what I want to do. I want to select these two elements. For that, I can go ahead and say, let's say I'll create a constant variable. Let's say const btn1 button 1 is equal to document dot query selector. So I can use query selector or get element by id, both is fine. Okay, I can use get element by id as well. Okay, because I have added an id here, sorry. And here I can go ahead and give what is known as the id name. What is the id name? That is but btn name. So button one document dot get element by id, which is button name, this is going to select the button one. And once the button one, which is this particular element, is selected, and next I want to select the next element, I'll just copy and paste here. This I'll change it to button two. Okay, button 2 get element by id, the identifier is this value. Okay, so the two buttons have been selected now. So once the two buttons have been selected, what I want to do, I want to modify now. I want to manipulate the DOM. I want to change the DOM. So for that, these two buttons are there, and there should be a paragraph to show the text, right? I want to show the text, whether it is a city name or the, whenever I click the button name, the para should show a name of the person. When I click the city, it should show the city name. So let's say I want to just create a simple blank paragraph with an identifier named para. I'll keep it as blank because this is where I am going to introduce the enclosed tag content depending on the button that I click. If I click name, the para will show the name of a person. If I click the city button, then this para will show the city name. All right. That is what the task that I can think of doing currently. All right. Now let's go ahead further, and I also go ahead and select the paragraph as well. So that is also I'll go ahead and select. Let's say copy and paste. For this, I'll say it as paragraph. Let's say const paragraph get element by id, that is id is para. All right, so I have selected all the three elements now using the dom get element by id. So now what I'll do, let's say btn1, whenever this button dot, what is there now, on click. Okay, on click is the event that I'm going to call. This is a property, on click property. And whenever I want to click this, whenever this particular button is clicked, what I'm going to do, I am going to call a function. Okay, let's say update name. Okay, this is the function I'm going to call. And this function, I'm going to declare it here. Let's say, what is this? Let's say a function followed by a function name, and this function name does not have any parameters. I'll open and close the parenthesis. Within this, I'll say because whenever I click this particular button one, the para need to be updated. So this update name function is going to update the paragraph. So here, what I'll do, I'll select this paragraph element, okay, paragraph dot inner text. I'm going to update inner text, which is the inner text value of your para tag. So this element, I am going to say whatever the name, let's say Rohit Shetty. Okay, let's say. So I have this particular function. So what's happening so far now? There is a button one I have selected using get element by ID, and on click of this button, whenever there is a click that happens, this is a click property. Whenever there is a click that happens, I'm going to call this function, and this function is defined here. What this function will do, it will update the inner tag which is currently blank. It is going to update to this particular string. All right, the same is the case with, let's say I'm going to have on click and then I'm going to say update city. So update city, and this function, let's say I'll copy here and let's say I'll paste. Instead of update name, I'm going to say update city, paragraph dot inner text, I'm going to say Bengaluru. Okay, so there is couple of things happening here. One is selection of the DOM, and once the selection, there is a manipulation that happens by calling a function. Okay, that is what we are going to see. Let's go ahead and see the output. Here is the output. When I click the name, Bangalore is going to say. When I click city, sorry, what is happening here? Whenever I click the name, when this is get, yeah, here is the blunder that I did. Instead of button one, I need to put this as a button two, right? Both I have declared button one. That is the problem. So when I click the second button, which is a city button, then city should show. All right, so now I have modified. Let's say I click the name Rohit, and when I click the city Bangalore. Okay, this is how you can go ahead and modify the DOM. All right, what the HTML tag contains, right guys? Just observe this. The HTML, if this particular code was not existing, which is a JavaScript code, if it was not existing, this is what the output is going to be. Two buttons, that's it. There is no paragraph is going to show up. There's no, nothing is happening. All this is happening because of this JavaScript code which is manipulating the DOM. Let's go here and see what we can do. The next thing what we have in place is called as events. Okay, this is again an interesting thing. What are these events? Events are the actions or the occurrences that happen on the system when some sort of interaction takes place on the browser, okay, web page. What are those? What are the actions? Like click of a button is an action. When a mouse is hover over the text is an action. So there is some action that are done by the user, and that interaction with the web page will trigger certain events. Okay, certain things that you can modify and change based on the events that occur. So there are a lot of events as a part of the DOM. What are those? Like clicking of a text or a button, if you drag and drop, if you use a hover, and if you scroll down and up, that is also an event. And if you submit a form, that is an event. If you press any key on your keypad, is an event. If you blur and focus, is that is also event. The wheel, mouse wheel, what you have, up and down mouse wheel, click of a mouse wheel, all those can be also considered as an event. The double click that you do on a mouse is an event. Copy and pasting, control C control V, that can also trigger an event. And resizing of the screen, resizing and control, if you are printing something, all those are part of the events that a browser can monitor. Okay, how does that browser monitors these events? Every time there are certain there is a certain method that is used, what is known as addEventListener. Okay, there is an event called as addEventListener method, and that method will do what? It will attach an event handler to the element and then does the action. Okay, then it will specify what that will contain. An event add event listener method will specify what kind of an event it is, whether it is a click event. Okay, if it is a click event, then you are going to call a function whenever that happens. That event is whenever the event is triggered, you are going to call a function which will again do the certain manipulation to the DOM. All right. So like I said, it is an event like change or input and all that. What you saw is a different events. Now what, how does the syntax works? Element, whatever the element that you have selected, dot add event listener, and within the brackets there are parameters here. First is the event type, like click is an event, change is an event. Okay, and then you are going to go pass a callback function as well and use capture. All right, now let's take this example. What is happening here? Const button, and here there is a DOM selection. What are you selecting? You are selecting a button. Now whenever the button is selected, this is the element dot add event listener. This is the method, and click is the event, and here is the arrow function, which is a callback function. What this will say? This will say you clicked me. That is the event that is triggered. Now you might say this can also be done by just calling on click as a inline JavaScript as well, right? Yes, that is also possible. But here, what you are trying to use is a add event listener. That is the method that you are going to use, and it is not just limited to click. There are a lot of events that we saw here, right? There are a lot of events that becomes part of your usage in your DOM. That is clicks, drags, drops, everything. So let's take the same example here. What is that? Let's say I have created a boilerplate. Here I'm going to create a button. Okay, a simple button, and this button contains an ID called BTN. Okay, BTN, and this says click me. Okay, click me. All right. So whenever this is clicked, there is something that I want to do in terms of down here. What I'm going to say first is I'm going to select the button, like let's say button is equal to document dot get element by ID. I'm going to provide the ID, which is BTN. Okay, now this is selected, and once the button is selected, then what I'm going to do, button dot, there is a add event listener. So this is the method I'm going to call, and this method is containing what? First parameter that it takes is called an event. Okay, so there is an event called click, and then there is a callback function. Whenever this happens, click happens, then you're calling this arrow function. Okay, this arrow function contains a couple of things. What it contains, I can go ahead and say alert. Okay, simple alert method. You clicked me. All right, this is what I'm going to call, and then that will be ended. Now if I go ahead and see this output, there is a button. If I click it, the event is triggered, which is a click event, and that click event has got a callback function, which is a alert statement. Okay, this callback contains, this is an arrow function, and this is a function that is triggered, which contains a alert message, which is you clicked me, and that is what you are going to see here. Okay, this is handling of events using a method called add event listener. All right, so now this is a lot of things today. I think this will be good enough to end it here. And guys, thank you guys, thank you.